Good morning. It is a Tuesday, July the 21st already. We're 1 month into summer. And this is the Good Morning Show where we try and kind of pick up your vibe a little bit, give you some tools that you need to maybe cope and even thrive in these challenging times that we're in. And I'm really thrilled with my guest today to have him. His name is Ryan Montis. He was a licensed private investigator. He still is licensed. Ryan spent the first part of his career delving deep into the mysteries in order to uncover the truth behind the veil of confusion and misinformation. And later, as a soldier with the Canadian Forces, Ryan sharpened his skills at understanding and applying specific proven processes in order to accomplish goals and missions. Today, Ryan uses his unique mix of experience and training to create transformational change in the lives of others. Ryan is a certified master results coach, a board designated institute trainer and master practitioner of neuro linguistic programming, or NLP, and a board designated master practitioner of timeline therapy, and also a board designated instructor of hypnotherapy. Welcome. I'm tired after that.
Thank you.
Only what, 22, and you've done all that? You're looking, is what I'm saying. So
I've got a few more years than that, but yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster the last couple of decades. Got a lot under the belt.
Yeah.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. Where did you find that?
I think on the website.
Oh, it's on the website. That's right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very good research. Yeah, happy to be here, David.
You know what? At this stage, we're happy to be anywhere, right? I like that. It's an old joke. At my age, I'm happy to be anywhere. So good morning, good day, whatever time you're watching this. Ryan, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, our minds are filled with so much noise and negative thoughts and information. I was just talking to a friend the other day about this, or yesterday, and you're hearing talks about a second wave, right? And it's like, why are we even talking about this when we're not even there yet? Like, why are we jumping ahead to this sort of future that maybe we don't really want? So so we're getting the news of the day. There's predictions of the future. There's the odd conspiracy theory that we see posted by friends of ours on our Facebook feeds. How can we start to retrain the brain and let that go and engage in more positive thoughts? Like, what do we have to do that?
So that's a really excellent question. You raise a good point. When we fixate on a potential outcome or a potential future or a potential result, it actually can have this sort of undesirable manifestation effect where what we focus on becomes our future, or you might call it, or you may have heard the expression self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's not really something intangible, and it's not something that can't be scientifically proven. It actually makes sense because whatever we focus on, it has the effect of programming our unconscious mind, which programs our autopilot behavior. Okay, so approximately 95% of our day, our behaviors are actually being run at the unconscious or subconscious level. Okay, so if we truly believe that there's going to be a second wave coming, it can actually cause us to unconsciously behave in a way that puts us in a position to where we're more likely to reach that second wave. If the general social consciousness believes that there's a second wave coming, then people at the unconscious level might be less likely for example, to wash their hands more often, or they might be less likely to wear their mask properly, or so on. All these little micro behaviors that are controlled at the unconscious level, and because at the unconscious level they believe one future is already determined, their behavior corresponds to that future. Whereas if somebody were to do the opposite and focus on a more positive outcome or a more positive desire, a more positive result, such as we're all going to be healthy, wealthy, and fit for the coming decade and decades, sorry, go ahead, David.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah.
That's what I
Then
want.
if we focus on that,
Mm.
that the same way will program our unconscious, subconscious behavior, and we'll have, you know, autopilot or micro behaviors that reflect that better and more compelling future, such as excellent hygiene, safe protocols when we're out in the public, and things that will manifest that future.
You mentioned a few times about unconscious behavior and thoughts. Where does that unconscious behavior and where do they start to form and develop? Is it in our childhood? Is it in a past life? Is it, is it a belief that we've held? Maybe we're two, maybe, mom, went and got a drink of water as you're in your crib screaming and you're going, man, nobody loves me, like where does where do our unconscious beliefs and patterns start to form?
Yes.
And what kind of happens or triggers that?
Great question. So, and the answer is it depends who you ask. Who you ask, but if we ask science, it'll tell us that the moment that you're born, basically, or maybe a little bit before the moment that you're born, you'll start to receive information through your senses, and all of that information that you receive influences the development of your neurology, which influences the development of your subconscious and unconscious systems. So there's a period from the age of 0, basically from birth, to the age of 7, where we're most receptive to new information. This is when we learn our first language. This is when we learn the bulk of our, most fundamental behaviors, such as eating and walking, and just normal basic human functions. So 0 to 7 is this window where we absorb, a huge amount of what will become our unconscious behaviors and patterns and beliefs and values and attitudes over the course of the future. Now, we never stop learning. As long as a person's alive and they're receiving information, it's affecting and changing their neurology.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at, deep unconscious patterns of behavior, deep unconscious beliefs and values, yes, you're right. Most of them are rooted in the experiences and the learnings that occurred in our lives, in those very early years, 0 to 7. Again, a lot of them are beyond that, particularly if there's an event that occurs that has a significant emotional impact on us. Will always retain some kind of meaning from that, and it'll go in at the unconscious level. But the bulk of it is 0 to 7. And the interesting thing is that you can have beliefs, you can have attitudes, and you can have values that are totally outside of your conscious awareness, yet still dictate and influence your behavior. Okay? So if somebody, at the age of 6, overhears their parents and they're having a very heated debate about how money is difficult to come by, or life is hard, or XYZ group is evil, or something like that, and that little person becomes an adult, they might not remember that conversation ever happening, but they could have some degree of bias or some limiting or disempowering belief at the unconscious level that does affect their life via their behavior and their results as a result of that, unfortunate observation that they made as a child.
Yeah, and then it's like as adults we're taking that belief system with us, and it's like, yeah, would you trust a 6-year-old with really important information? Probably not. You'd probably not that you would dismiss it. I don't think that's the proper behavior to dismiss what the child is saying, but the trusting and to carry it with us. So, there's an old term, Ryan, garbage in, garbage out. What steps then can we start to take daily to help us let go of that thinking, those beliefs, to let go of the stinking thinking, as it were?
Yeah, I think learning and awareness are really the keys. Learning and awareness are the keys to changing undesirable thought and therefore undesirable behavior. And learning how the conscious and unconscious mind works is important. And identifying what is a limiting belief, what is a disempowering belief or attitude or value, and how that resonates into results in our life. So the simplest way to detect them is to realize that if there's a goal that you have or have had that you're aware you have the resources to reach and you just haven't reached it, there's probably a limiting belief or disempowering belief at the unconscious level that's creating a block. All right. Unless there's very few goals that are really unattainable, like traveling to Mars within the next 7 days, would be an example. It's probably not a limiting belief of mine that's preventing me from doing that. It's more logistics. But if somebody wants to earn more money or find a good partner that they love, or have some kind of normal worldly experience, and it's within the realm of possibility, and they've spent years or months or decades trying and they haven't been able to do it, it's probably not a matter of resources. It's probably not a matter of circumstance. It's probably a matter of internal programming that's preventing them. So that's a really huge hint, a really huge guide, to the people out there. If there's something you want and there's no good reason you haven't got it yet, you need to look internally and examine what are those, doubts? What are those self-doubts? What are those beliefs that are subjective, which means you believe them, that other people probably don't believe them about you, that are preventing you from executing the behaviors that would align you with those goals. And those can point you in the direction of where you need to focus.
And so then how does hypnosis help or NLP? How do those two modalities help us to let go of those beliefs and shift into sort of reprogramming the brain a little bit?
Excellent question. So hypnosis and NLP are both what I would describe as a bridge to the unconscious mind. So all of our, most internalized behaviors, beliefs, attitudes, values, and programming really exists at the unconscious level. And, the unconscious is not really all that mysterious. It's simply anything that's outside of our immediate conscious awareness. And so to understand the unconscious, we need only think about what is the consciousness. Well, the consciousness is just what's in our awareness at any given moment. What we're literally thinking about at any given moment right now, one or two thoughts is what's in our conscious awareness. Everything else is at the unconscious level. So all that programming. So NLP and hypnotherapy are the connection. They're the bridge to access that unconscious mind. And using NLP and hypnotherapy, we can elicit what are a person's beliefs, their unconscious beliefs, what are their behaviors, behavioral patterns, what are their experiences or programming that exist outside of their consciousness, and then we can change them or influence them or open up new pathways of belief and behavior that they didn't have access to or that were blocked or locked for some reason before. So hypnosis and NLP are the methodologies that allow us to do that in a very fast, usually, an effective and lasting way.
So let me ask you this, because this happened to me a long time ago. What if we do hypnosis, or we listen to hypnosis, or we do hypnosis therapy, but yet deep down we don't really believe that the change we desire will happen? So I'll give you an example. So a long time ago, I used to smoke, right? It's been over 20 years, but I used to smoke. So I went to one of those hypnotherapy clinics where they promise you'll quit smoking. I had a cigarette the next day. So how can we manage that kind of hypnosis more proactively? Or is there something just, it's so ingrained in you, or your beliefs are so strong against that hypnosis treatment working? How do we manage it? And do you see that happening? And is it because our beliefs are so ingrained and so strong that it's actually canceling out,
Yeah, so that's a great question. And smoking cessation is something that hypnosis is famous for. And a good hypnotherapist will only ever really be about 90% effective with smoking cessation. It's not that remaining 10% of people can't be hypnotized, or it's not, or the treatment is not effective for them. It's that they are going into the process with, as you poignantly pointed out, they're going in with pre-existing beliefs that are counter to the intention of the hypnosis,
right?
Which can block, it can block occasionally hypnotherapy. That can be overcome, but sometimes it's quicker and more efficient to just let that person go to a different modality versus working out why they have a counter belief to hypnotherapy and going through all the steps to clear that up, when they could just go and do cognitive behavioral therapy, or they could go and do, see their family doctor and get medication or something that's going to be quicker and easier for them. Which is why I think for the vast majority, when it comes to smoking cessation, hypnosis is a great idea. For that small minority of people, yeah, instead of trying to, force the hypno to work, and eventually it will, certainly, but it can be quicker to go another route. And so that's one of the nice things about having, hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy. These are all different modalities, because different people will respond to the different modalities more readily. They all apply to everybody. As long as somebody has a human brain, the application remains the same. But different people respond more readily depending on their personal experience, their personal beliefs, their education, and many different other factors.
Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, if you want a new personal reality, you have to change your personality. I love that term. What's your take on that? And how does, practicing hypnotherapy or NLP help us achieve that aim, to achieve a new personal reality?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Dispenza when he says that, and in most of his work. And the reason for that is that the way we perceive our reality is by passing all of the information that comes through us through what's called like an unconscious set of filters. All of our personal experiences, all of our beliefs, all of our values, everything that we've ever learned or experienced, they're existing in our neurology at the unconscious level. And whenever information or an event or whatever comes to us through our senses into our awareness, it doesn't come in raw. It comes in filtered through all of our experiences and biases and ideas, so that we all have our own personal version of reality. And this is the reason that two different people can observe precisely the same event, and one of them thinks it's a great thing and one of them thinks it's a horrible thing. It's because they're both comparing that event to their own personal experiences and beliefs. And so with hypnosis, or NLP or timeline therapy or meditation or many other things, we can influence those filters. We can massage them, we can change them, we can reframe our perspective on the world to see the good in things, and to begin to look at problems as opportunities, and to move things around, to basically to change our reality to fit our liking, or to fit our desired goals, or to fit our desires in general.
Yeah, and you raised a good point earlier about, you could be a little kid and you overheard your parents saying, yeah, money's tough to come by, or, and we all got the money stories, right? And we all have money stories, money doesn't grow on trees, or there's never enough, or, I used to get, my mom was from England, and her dad was a tailor. He made suits, and he had a term he used: you got to cut your suit by the cloth you're given, which kind of meant you got to stay within your means financially. So, these are like really like so ingrained in us, and to sort of all of a sudden just like, yeah, I'm going to let go. Is there like it's not that simple of, yeah, I'm going to let go, I'm going to do a hypnosis therapy for one session. It's not that easy. Does it take time, or is it that easy? Can we let go, or is it sort of do we have to be in a pattern of canceling that thought and replacing it with a different, more proactive thought? So instead of telling ourselves, yeah, it's hard to make money, then do we need to sort of cancel that and then replace it with, hey, money comes to me easily and effortlessly from multiple sources? Is it that simple, Ryan? That's what I'm trying to get at. It was a long question to get to that.
And and it's a great question. And the answer is, it kind of depends on how you do it. And also, again, it depends on the purpose, because for some people it might be a soft belief. For some people it might be one of their core beliefs, which of course is going to be more guarded by their unconscious mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And then it depends again on what precise modality and variation of that modality we throw at it. So statistically, if somebody has one problem or one thing they want to change using hypnosis, efficacy is something in the area of 90+% after 6 sessions. A session being 1 hour to 1.5 hours.
Right.
If we look at, recorded hypnosis sessions are very popular these days, and there's thousands of them available on YouTube for free. And I encourage people to listen to them because some of them are very, very powerful.
And you've got some too, right?
I've got a couple that are available. Yeah, you can through my Instagram, and they're on YouTube as well. And that takes a little bit longer. Usually people will start to see results. Sometimes it's very soon. Sometimes it's after one listening, but 30 days, if you find a hypnosis recording that you really like, and, you start to notice a little bit of a change after a couple of days, listen to it at least once a day for 30 days, hopefully right before bed. That's probably the best time for most people. And then you'll start to see a significant change. When we talk about neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy, in many cases, many cases, interventions can be effective in as little as 1 session. Sometimes even in as little as half a session. I've seen profound change in people and their beliefs and behaviors in a 15 or 20-minute technique.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, normally the people that experience that really mind-blowing immediate result are people who have done what I mentioned earlier. They've committed time to awareness and education. They've educated themselves about what the unconscious mind is, what are limiting beliefs, how does it all work? And then when they come to a practitioner, they're sort of primed. The unconscious mind is already anticipating the change to some degree. The practitioner uses, a powerful technique, and the change is immediate. It's usually with, people who are new to the self-development world, or new to, to understanding the way their unconscious programming influences them, where it takes a little bit more time. They're like the 5 or 6 session, hypno people sometimes, but it can be very, very quick. It can be.
That's really amazing. That it's that quick and it's that painless.
Oh yeah.
Which, even that is a belief, that change has to be painful, right? It can, it might be for a first few days. I remember quitting smoking. I actually ended up quitting cold turkey. And so it was painful, but what's the old saying? 21 days to make or break a habit. And after 21 days, it was like, oh, this is great, right?
Yeah.
And you feel better. But again, you know what it is? It's like a, and we're doing this collectively too. It's like it's a battle of the mind that's going on right now. And you almost have to battle your negative sort of thoughts every day, And I remember when I, was quitting, smoking, for example, like the urge to go and have one came up every now and then. But then I had to sort of cancel that urge and say, yeah, but you'll have more energy, or this is the one that got me. Okay, don't laugh. Your sex life will improve.
Yeah.
And they've actually done studies on that. I'm a Scorpio male. You just tell me that and I'm in. So
yeah.
And I make light of it, but so the bottom line is we're always having to really sort of work with our mind, like canceling out the negative thoughts. And we talked about this at the beginning. Our collective thinking is really, really negative right now. So what do you think needs to shift? And what plagues you about this sort of the collective thinking? Because it does create the reality that maybe we don't really want. So what needs to shift, and what sort of challenges you with the collective thinking that's going on right now?
I think perspective is really what it comes down to, is the perspective that, everybody has on the world. We tend to look at, the news and current events and think, wow, 2020 is horrible events. But really, comparatively to, the entire history of the world, I mean, things are better really than they've ever been, medical technology is more advanced than it's ever been. Life expectancy is higher than ever, war is lower than ever, murder, crime rate really around the world is lower than it's ever been in the history of, humanity, really. So it's very easy to watch the news and see, current events and think, oh, it's so bad. But it really, could be a lot worse, and it was a lot worse, and continues to get better and better. Of course, there's the pandemic and social unrest and stuff, and that's bad. I agree. Of course, if we had the choice, we wouldn't have those things. But there's still so much good in life. The perspective is what needs to change. People need to focus on what they want, focus on what there is to enjoy, and set their sights for the positive and allow those positives to grow. Right. When we fixate all of our attention, all of our energy on, and people use the word fight. They want to fight the pandemic. They want to fight, social justice problems. They want to fight. Well, how about find a solution versus fight the problem? How about improve our world, versus tear down the things that we don't like? I think that's the better paradigm for reaching the world that collectively we really all want, right?
Yep. Oh, that's beautiful. It's so nicely said, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my next question is, as we started and we read your bio, it said you're a private investigator, licensed investigator. How do you go from that into NLP and hypnosis? Like, what was it? Like, what was your aha moment? And what got you, how did you go from one very different sort of field into this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, as you said, my first career was a private investigator, and then I was in the Canadian Forces for a while, and now I run a company teaching NLP and hypnosis. And the pivotal point was actually back when I was a private investigator. So I used to do field surveillance work. So I'd be out in the world in a car with tinted windows, and I'd be following people around and doing stakeouts and all this kind of stuff.
Man, like, sorry.
Okay. It was a lot of fun, but eventually the novelty wore off. But it gave me a lot of time sitting in a vehicle, really not doing much. Because sometimes I'd be on a stakeout 13, 14 hours, nobody would move, I wouldn't go anywhere. So I started listening to audiobooks. And I started listening to personal development audiobooks quite a lot. Because at first I had listened to these stories, I listened to biographies and hear these fascinating stories of people going from, normal lives ridden with depression and anxiety and perceived failure and becoming, incredible successes.
Yeah.
And then, and they all sort of follow these common themes of personal development and belief shifts and all these things. So I started listening to the books that I knew these great people were listening to, and they were all like personal development books. And then I listened to so many of them that I started to notice commonalities between them. They sort of use this structure, this language, this vernacular that was all similar. It was like all the authors of all the self-help and personal development books had gone to the same school, but nobody was talking about what that school was.
Right.
And with a little bit of additional research and a little bit of digging, I discovered that a lot of them were NLP trained, neuro-linguistic programming trained, or had backgrounds in hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought, oh, well, it's time to go to the source, and I started studying NLP and hypnosis. So it was actually going back now 15, 16 years almost that I started studying NLP and hypnosis and using it for my own personal development, using it to, build my confidence, using it to change my own limiting beliefs and patterns and, get myself to the place where I am now. And then, I finished my career as a private investigator, moved into the military. I did that for a few years, had a great time, learned a ton of stuff. And then I left the military. I was ready for something new. I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I wanted to help the world, change the world. And by that point, NLP and hypnosis had become a real passion of mine. And I decided to go and take a training course, a formal training course, just a level 1 NLP course. And about halfway through that, I just knew something clicked. I loved it so much. I loved the environment, the people, everybody that was in the course, everybody that was teaching the course was just of exceptional character and quality. And I knew that was the world that I wanted to contribute to and be a part of.
Very cool. And look, here you are in your class and you look so happy, a little happier than in a car with tinted windows all day.
Look at me in that air-conditioned room, on a comfortable chair with a coffee machine in the back of the room,
Yeah.
Hard to do that. So, and teaching people to go out and empower others,
Yeah.
it's a tremendous gift to be able to do that.
I agree. I miss the classroom. You and I both teach, and I miss we're doing Zoom, but nothing like, where you are in a classroom and
Yeah.
that human connection for sure. Yeah.
I agree. I miss being able to, mull around the refreshment table on breaks and chit chat with the students. And the Zoom is better in some ways because people don't have to commute and they have access to their own kitchen and everything. But in person, it's hard to beat. I really do miss it too.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's the distinction between NLP and hypnosis? And can you have one without the other?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have one without the other. Many people use strictly hypnosis. Many people use neurolinguistic programming only. And then many people are like me and use a synthesis of both, which I believe is the best way really to do it. Because like I said, some people respond better to one set of techniques and some people respond better to the other, or some clients will have a preference. And it's nice to be able to, give them the best experience possible. The difference really is, NLP is hypnotic in nature to begin with. It's more of a covert hypnosis where we're using language patterns and different techniques to access the unconscious mind. And really, they're all hypnotic in nature, but they're more of a sit up, so to speak, method where there's more active involvement from the client. Whereas hypnosis to the observer kind of seems more passive. The client will often be in a very relaxed state, although not always, but often in a very relaxed state. And the hypnotist or hypnotherapist will guide them through processes that involve active imagination, but allow the client really to keep their eyes closed, relax. There's a little bit more interaction in NLP. But in my opinion, and again, this is another thing where it depends who you ask, both NLP and hypnosis fall under the greater umbrella of unconscious mind techniques, which is why there's a lot of commonality, a lot of synthesis between them.
So, what are some positive outcomes when you've worked with a client and you've done hypnotherapy for the 6 sessions? What's changed? What's happened, and what shifted?
It's different for every client. Generally, clients will come in with a specific goal in mind, and then we'll help them reach that goal. With hypnosis, very common, smoking cessation is a big one. Weight loss is a big one that can be very readily and rapidly achieved with hypnosis and safely. Motivation is huge with both NLP and hypnosis. So a lot of people come either to me or another master practitioner because they know they're not living up to their potential, or they have a business idea and they have all the resources to do it, but they just can't get themselves to actually do the work because there's some kind of block there, or they're transitioning from an employee status to an entrepreneur status, which can be quite hard actually in terms of daily habitual behavior. So those are some big ones that we tackle with hypnosis and NLP. Big in the sense that they're very common, not big in the sense that they're
right,
particularly hard to overcome. And then with NLP specifically, there's a lot of very fine, specific techniques to deal with very specific things. Like there's a technique in NLP, to give you an example, called the like to dislike process, where you can help somebody go into their mind, and something that they previously really liked, you can guide them to a place where they no longer like it.
wow.
And where we use this a lot is with foods. If somebody's trying to be healthier and they have a trigger food that they find difficult to resist, let's say fudgesicles, for example. Somebody comes to me and they are addicted to fudgesicles, and they say, what, I never want to have another one. We can use the like to dislike pattern. It's like a half an hour technique, and they'll no longer like fudgesicles, for example. And then there's many other techniques. There's a technique called chaining anchors, where we take somebody and we install a strategy where every time they begin to feel procrastination, all of a sudden they feel motivated to act. We set up a set of triggers so that as soon as they begin to procrastinate, they get a rush of motivation to execute action. That's another specific NLP technique.
So this is really good if you want to change a pattern, you want to change a belief, you want to be able to be a master communicator, especially with NLP. I remember learning a little bit of NLP in sales, and the old match and lead. So you would match your client's posture. Maybe their hands are like, their arms are folded like this. So you match them, and then you sort of gently lead them and into, they start to match you, and then you can kind of lead them to the sales discussion. So I remember that technique. How do we know we're ready for NLP or hypnosis? Like, what shows up in our life that's saying, I better do something, and this is the thing that's going to help me?
I think if somebody's saying that phrase to themselves, I better do something, they're probably ready for something. And there's a very good chance it's NLP or hypnosis if they're aware of NLP and hypnosis. I think the people that are not ready are what we would call somebody who's not yet coachable. So there's somebody who believes that they have no control over their circumstances. They refuse to take responsibility for the results that they're getting in life. It's not that those people can't be helped, but they may not be ready for change yet. Somebody who's ready for an NLP or hypnotic or any other modality process would be somebody who, acknowledges that ultimately the results they achieve in life are their responsibility, and they're willing to take action or make changes to reach the results that they want. That, I think, is probably the biggest factor. And a person needs to be open-minded enough to, give the processes a chance.
Yeah.
One thing that I train my students, my hypnotherapy and NLP students on, is, sort of these false participants. So sometimes people will come, especially for, like a smoking cessation or something.
I swear.
Yeah. And will come, and during a pre-talk or during an induction interview, I'll say something like, well, why do you want to quit smoking? And they'll say, well, actually I don't, but my wife said if I don't come to this session, she's going to kick me out of the house. Well, that person, as much as you love to help that person, no amount of hypnosis or NLP or any, or threats or anything is going to get them to stop, because they don't want to. So somebody has to, be coachable, be open-minded, and actually have a real internal desire to change the behavior.
Yeah. I think that's so critical, Ryan, in any change or modification. You have to really want it, Les Brown from Detroit, the inspirational speaker, I just love him. And, one of his main topics that he taught over the years was, you got to be hungry, right? And you got to be hungry for the change. It's even in, like, if you got maybe your business isn't going quite the way you want, you got to be hungry. You got to make that extra call, you got to make that extra visit, you got to go to that extra networking event, you got to be hungry for it. And you're so right. My last question is, let's say somebody watching today they're really stuck with their negative thoughts, and to the point that it might even be sabotaging them in many aspects of their life. What advice would you have to help them break the chains and really start to see and get new results? I think we've alluded to it already. You got to want it, you got to be open, and you got to work it too. You got to be, hungry. But what else would you say they could do now to start to break the chains and begin to get new results?
I think the biggest thing and the fastest thing that most people can do, that is remarkably simple, that very few people do, is to externalize their goals and put them on paper. So to think about what is their desired outcome, make it highly, highly, highly specific. A desired outcome is never an emotion. Being happy is not a desired outcome. What do they want their life to look like, feel like, and sound like? What experiences do they want their surrounding to be? And take it and write it out on paper using an actual pen, not a computer, but write it down, externalize it to make it real. Because when we leave them in the mind, they're vague, and they morph and, and they change, right? And then we never move towards anything. So first step is externalize them, write them down. The second step is fixate on what you want and forget about what you don't want.
Mm.
A lot of times you'll have clients come into the office or whatever, we'll talk on Zoom. They'll say, well, what do you want? And we'll say, well, I don't want to work a job I hate anymore. And that's not what they want. That's what they don't want.
Right.
So people need to be aware of the difference between what they're avoiding and what they want to move towards, and really focus on what they want to move towards. The other thing is to accept the realization that ultimately we have control over our mind. There's no mystical force that controls our brain, okay? We control our mind. We choose what we focus on. And all humans have this tendency to ruminate. We think of the same stuff over and over and over, and we reprogram and program our neurology to reinforce the same beliefs over and over. So when we think about, being unhappy, or we think about, these circumstances that we don't like, we actually reinforce them at a neurological level. And becoming aware of that and catching ourselves and changing that to say, oh yeah, Ryan said I should think about the things I actually want. That can actually, you can create a habit, and that can actually change the way you think rather rapidly if you're persistent. So externalize it, put it on paper, stop ruminating about things you don't like, start ruminating about things you love, or places you want to go, or circumstances you want to achieve. And then the last thing would be, take action, do something about it. Imperfect action today beats indefinite waiting for perfection or perfect circumstances. Do anything to move towards your goals, and then correct course along the way.
Yeah.
Is the biggest thing. And doing something could be, seeing a practitioner or a coach or something, or it could be signing on for an online course, or it could be telling a friend that you have this important goal and you just need to talk to somebody for an hour about it to hash out how you're going to get there. Those are really simple things, or it could be going and registering your business number with the province of Ontario or whatever jurisdiction you live in, and it only costs $60, and at least then you're making something real.
Yeah.
Some action, take a little bit of action every day.
Yeah. Or registering your domain name, or
buy your domain name. Yeah.
And that's like $15 maybe.
Quick piece of advice about domain names to anybody who's listening. If you don't own your full name as a .com yet, buy it before somebody else does.
Right.
I tell all of my students this.
Okay.
Because even if you don't plan to run a business, you don't want somebody who has the same name as you or buys your domain and then puts some horrible, inappropriate content on it. And every time somebody Googles you, that's what comes up.
Oh, yeah.
But if you are planning to run a business or be a coach or whatever, while you can, get yourname.com.
Well, look at, you got yours.
Exactly.
Smart. I got mine. It's the davidcohengroup.com. But I'm going to go see if, I think my name is taken because there's a few.
That's a somewhat common name, I think. Yeah. So a lot of names will be taken, of course, but if it's still available, it costs like $10 a year to register a domain. Just grab it.
Great idea. I think the one that has it, he's a lawyer.
Okay, that's not so bad.
It could be worse.
Could be worse, yeah.
Not much, but it could be.
Yeah.
Great. I'm so glad I got a chance to speak to you today. Shameless self-promotion. Where do we reach you? And what do you got? What do you got coming up?
Yeah, appreciate that. What I'd like to direct everybody to do is follow me on Instagram. I'm putting a lot of great content on Instagram these days, and my handle is at Ryan Montis NLP. RyanMontis NLP on Instagram, or my website ryanmontis.com. I've got a great free masterclass. You can get the link through my Instagram right now, and it's a 90-minute training on how to use NLP and hypnosis to market your business, actually, to establish yourself as an authority online using hypnotic and NLP principles. And then coming down the pipe very soon is going to be some online courses to learn actually self-hypnosis, hypnosis for others, and then NLP. Those are coming out soon. And those, again, will be announced through my Instagram and website. So check out those portals. Oh, and if you want the hypnosis recordings, you can find them through my Instagram bio links as well.
Wow, it's amazing. So you got lots of stuff, lots of content to consume, and this stuff works. Like, as I said, right now, I think the biggest fight I've noticed in my life in the past 2 years, because I've gone through lots of change too, is fighting the mind, and the negative thoughts, and it's like it's always a battle, and yeah, the faster you can do that, for those watching, the the better results you'll have, and the faster the results. So watch what you say, watch what you think, even your words. Create your own reality. And yeah, this is great, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David. I really appreciate you asking me to speak with you today. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
what a professional too. So Ryan Montis, check him out, ryanmontis.com. Check out his Instagram. He's on Facebook. I think you're on LinkedIn probably. So you're a little bit of everywhere. Thank you for this today.
Well,
And
thanks, David.
those watching, if you want to like this program, you want to donate, check our Patreon link below. Lots of bells and whistles there. And have a really great day and week ahead. Take care. See you next time. Okay. Well,